then do you have a recommendation of where to go, or could they contact you and find out how to get that information?
Yeah, if it's an ANSI document, it's very easy because ANSI puts out a standards action every week. It's one of those things that you have to look at every week, and there's a lot of stuff in there that's not going to be totally relevant, but it's usually worth watching. At least for us, it is. For some of the other standard developers out there, there isn't necessarily a nice place where everything happens to show up. Folks like, I see up on the screen, there's USGBC and SPLC, and for those, it's a matter of getting on their listserv and seeing what they put out. For some of the European standard developers, it can be a little more painful because they have laws about sending out emails to mass groups. So it's a little trickier. It involves keeping an eye on the website or having a friend in that organization that's going to let you know when things are happening.
Obviously, you said that's something you check every week from the ANSI site. Do you think it's important for manufacturers to be aware of the standards development process in their industry and to engage from your perspective?
Well, seeing as how I do this kind of stuff all the time, yes. The other answer is also yes. We have, I want to point again to the screen and say that, U.S. Green Building Council is up there. And that's a process that we didn't initially engage with. And it's one that, in retrospect, is something we should have engaged in. Now that does make it a little tricky because there are a lot of different activities going on out there, and so you do sort of have to pick and choose, or try to stay engaged at least somewhat in some of the ones that you're not sure if they're going to take off or not. But at the end of the day, if it's something that your customers want, then it's something that needs to be paid attention to, and it's easier to be involved early on than it is to come in later and try to change it.
Thanks, Jeff. I think it's important to note that some of these third-party rating organizations, such as Sustainable Purchasing Leadership Council and the U.S. Green Building Council, are making use of a lot of these third-party labels and standards that you see, and those come out in their guidance documents and in their rating system. For those of you not familiar with the Sustainable Purchasing Leadership Council, it's a group that's looking at rating, if you will, and they're working towards a rating system for sustainable purchasing, so that would look more broadly across an organization's effort to be sustainable in their acquisitions that they make. And of course, most of you are familiar with the Green Building Council and their LEED rating system for buildings, and there are a recent version came out, version 4, which is more specific in terms of use of some of the third-party labels as well. So these seem to be catching on and seem to be being used more in the sustainable purchasing arenas. So at this time, I would like to ask the audience if you have any questions of the panel or comments. Marie?
This is a question mostly to Porter. I'm Marie Wheat with the BioPreferred program, and I was just really confused earlier with the chart that was put up, because we have a really hard time getting people to understand that BioPreferred, bio-based products are mandated through statute. So when I looked at that chart, I was like, wait, my eyeballs were popping out, because they don't even know they're supposed to buy BioPreferred. So I guess the question is, how are you getting this out to contracting officers? You said you hadn't heard from contracting officers. I mean, I deal with them a lot just to educate them on our one tiny part of the program. So how can I help you to figure out how to make it clear what statute and how they're supposed to implement this?
Sure. I don't know if it's now it's blinking. It's my fault.
Yeah. Move your hand.
Anyways,
It turns
I don't know if it's needed for anything. I just talk now. There you go. This chart
is the EPA draft guidelines. So I do hesitate to speak too much to the development of it because I wasn't involved in it. Biorefinery is listed under the statutory requirement. The confusion that thus far to me hasn't lied about the use of biopreferred in purchasing, but rather the third party and recommended standards from the EPA side. As far as what you can do to help, I don't know if you're involved with the Sustainable Acquisition group. We need help, I think, especially with the FAI contracting officers, as some of you know, or some of you participated in the morning session required to have continuous learning credits, take courses. A lot of the courses on FAI.gov, which is the training center for the government, are outdated, not the most user-friendly, so we're always looking for ways to, from our office, to communicate to the workforce in new and more innovative ways. Our administrator has a podcast where she discussed innovative purchasing techniques. We can do something there. We also have a new LFPP newsletter. There's a one-page newsletter that's very easily digestible, which is not like the fact circulars that go out monthly that are pages and pages of regulations. So I think maybe we see if we can get with me afterwards, we can email and maybe get something in these new sort of outreach efforts to the CEOs to highlight areas such as biopreferred so that we communicate to them in sort of new and more innovative ways, more digestible ways than just fact circulars, which aren't always the most successful.
Are there other questions or comments?
I actually have a follow-up question on that, Porter. If I look at this, and I'm a contracting officer, I know I have to put the bio-based clause in. I send a contract out for cleaning products. It has the bio-based clause. People respond. Some say, yes, I have a bio-based product that meets the USDA minimum. Others say, no, I don't, but I have a safer choice product. Somebody else says, oh, I have a green seal product. If I'm the contracting officer and I'm awarding this, do I say, well, that's nice that you have these things, but you gotta have that. You can have these too, but if you don't have that, we're not going to, and you still meet the performance requirements. We're not gonna jump over biopreferred to get safer choice or green seal.
Correct. We're not going to jump over the statutory legal requirements we have to get to the other standards.
And I think that's the confusion out there when people see this. Do they say, gee, I can only award it if it's got all three, or can I trump some of these by having these other seals or logos? So you can't, the bottom line is you can't jump over the statutory requirement.
For sure, and in my operational experience as contracting officer, I'm normally pretty well aware of the statutory legal requirements, the legal requirements versus the regulatory and policy requirements. But I can definitely see how a chart like this is confusing and we need to better outreach. And especially as Maria's discussing, she's had issues with just promoting biopreferred in her own work, so these are all things we need to step up on.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Yes.
Okay, nobody else has questions. I want to ask you about the acquisition gateway and what's going on with that and making sure that the EcoLabels like BioPreferred are included in acquisition gateway. I know there's an icon, but I don't know that there's anything that kind of like we force it in our acquisition system. Is there anything similar to that?
We are currently working on a tag about green reviewed on the gateway. One of the goals of current administrator of the Office of Federal Procurement Policy is called category management, which is to manage the common spend across government. As I said earlier, we have about $438 billion in spend. Roughly half of that is in common spend that we could improve our efficiencies by buying more centrally or buying under best-in-class vehicles. What she's referring to is the Acquisition Gateway. It's a new website which lists these government-wide, agency-wide contracts to buy. And currently it was developed and was just listed the available GWACs, government-wide acquisition vehicles, and other contracts available across agencies. We have worked with the EPA and having a tiger team of subject matter experts go through these contracts to ensure they're including all the applicable clauses as required by statute, regulation, and the most recent EO. So we are looking forward to rolling out a tag. It will be a tag on the contracts that have been reviewed and hopefully indicate those which have the required clauses, and those which are exempt, there are law enforcement exemptions and things like that. So it's definitely a big advantage of category management that we can have teams review these best-in-class vehicles to ensure we're meeting all the requirements. So there is work being done on the gateway. we hope to roll something out and have some press on that soon, but it's been worked out with EPA across the agency team.
Any other questions? I think we're about out of time, and I just want to, if you have more questions about how to participate in standards development, in particular ASTM, see Dr. Narayan, because he's been participating in those for a number of years and could provide some advice for you on that. Jeff, I want to thank you for being with us today, and you too, Porter, and thanks for your insights and input into this panel. And if any of you have additional questions, we'll be glad to see you afterwards. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And we want to roll right into the panel that I know a lot of people are interested in, which is the federal financing and how do you get more support for all the innovation that you know costs a lot of money, frankly, to take and get people to develop and market. So if our panel will join us today, we're really thankful for some more busy folks. Starting on my right here is the administrator of USDA's Rural Business Cooperative Service, Sam Rikkers. Prior to coming to USDA, he served as the director of the Energy and Environment team at the White House's Presidential Personnel Office. He is an attorney by training and has practiced in New York. Sam Rikkers is a native of Wisconsin, and he's also been a volunteer in the Peace Corps, so he's got a very diverse background that I think he understands what it takes to innovate and the money that's involved with that. So we really appreciate his time today. And with him is Mark Brodziski in the center here, and Mark is the director of the Energy Division for USDA's Rural Business Cooperative Service. And importantly for all of you is that is the group that has the Biorefinery Assistance Program, sometimes called Section 9003 out of the Farm Bill. And you, on the left, my left, is Greg Blake, whom you met earlier in our program today because of his work with the Department of Defense. But Greg has also been a recipient of one of these loan guarantees. So I'm going to turn it over to three of them. They've kind of talked about it, and it is my understanding that they're willing to take questions at the end of the session. So with that, thank you, Administrator Rikkers, and we look forward to letting you take.
Thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure to join you today.
We may need to put one of these shorts next to you.
Is that a little better? Thanks, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you today. We get the honor, we think at the dinner table you save the dessert to last because it's the best. We think that's why they put us here at the end of the day. There are caffeinated drinks outside. We won't be offended if you get up and go grab one. I've heard it's been a great day. I'm sorry I missed some of it, but we're happy to be here. We get to talk a little bit about the bioeconomy and what we're doing to really fuel a new economy, an economy that's really relevant for rural America. As the administrator of Rural Business Cooperative Service, I fall into a history of an organization which was founded in 1936. They're celebrating 80 years now of the Rural Electrification Administration. Right? That's where we came from. Because 80 years ago, what it meant to be viable, a viable small town, a viable rural America, meant you had electricity. Well, today, what it means to be a viable and vibrant rural community is that you have good housing, you have good wastewater, you have broadband, but you also have great jobs, right? You have great jobs that are producing good wages, and we've seen that challenged. I'm heading to Korea on Saturday to speak about American rural development, and I've been going through some drafts of a speech kind of looking at the depopulation, the out-migration of rural communities in America, because it happened after World War II in Korea as well. And when that happens, good jobs leave, and we're always thinking, and the Rural Business Cooperative Service side of things, well, how do we get those good jobs back? What are the industries that are going to bring those jobs back and help people stay there? Or when they leave, Mark and I are both from small town Wisconsin, as it turned out, who want to come back and raise their families there. We know that this morning, the Secretary may have talked about the report that came out last year. We know that one of those industries that keep American rural communities vibrant is by really tapping into the bio-based industry and the bioeconomy. We know, as the Secretary probably talked about, the amount of money that contributes to our national economy, the amount of jobs that creates, and the multiplier effect that has. And so, a huge part of what we get to do, and Mark and I have a lot of fun doing it, is figuring out through our energy programs, our energy division, and how to grow the bioeconomy. And because we, from small towns in Wisconsin working at the USDA, know that it has particularly good salutary effects on rural towns and communities. And so, this is kind of a graph that we often use in and across the USDA from the beginning to the end of that bioeconomy supply chain. We have programs, not necessarily in rural development shop, but you could go back to the feedstock part of a bioeconomy, and BCAP is there. And I think you guys heard from the BioPreferred group earlier today, and where they could ultimately go. Our FSA, Farm Service Agency, had programs to help grow those crops as well. So there are a lot of different components in and across the USDA that support that bioeconomy. But today we want to take half an hour with you today to really talk about the programs in rural development that we get to work with, and that we think could be relevant to some of the work I've learned very briefly that you're doing. So with that, Mark is the director of our energy programs. He also, I think a lot of you are not just in the bioeconomy, but you're just small businesses. Mark was the, before being our energy division director, he led business programs in one of our states, the state of Wisconsin, for years. And so I'm going to turn it over to Mark just to go into a little bit more depth about our programs.
Thanks, Sam. And I will obviously focus on the energy programs a little bit, but refer to some of our other business programs, as Sam noted. Within our business, Rural Business Cooperative Service, we have a litany of 12 to 15 programs, depends on how you count the big grants and loan, some parts. But rather than spending a lot of time on all the programs, what we thought we'd do is kind of focus on three, and this slide kind of highlights really the three major programs that can work with businesses, small businesses, or large businesses, depending on the program, across rural communities. In some of our presentations, we get tied a little bit into the kind of nuts and bolts of the program, and sometimes the eyes of the audience kind of glaze over when we start seeing things kind of overlap. So today we thought we would take a little different approach and talk a little bit in general sense as to what the programs can do, how they can work with businesses, types of projects they can work with, and then at the end of this talk a bit in the sense of how to access, just in general, the programs, and then let our experts, our staff, work with you as to line you up with the best program that can work with your needs and project needs. So just from that perspective, what I'm going to do is follow this slide generally, but talk projects and types of activities. So within our energy programs, probably the program in the sense that really reaches out and serves the most number of clients is our Rural Energy for America program. Sometimes referred to as the REAP program. That program has two components to it: energy efficiency, funding for energy efficiency projects, or funding for renewable energy systems. On the energy efficiency side of it, it's really open to any small business in a rural community and ag producers to undertake energy efficiency projects. We like to think that probably the cheapest source and the cleanest source of energy is the energy you don't use, right? So we really prioritize energy efficiency as it relates to use of this program for assisting small businesses. A couple of examples of how it might relate to things that you do are businesses that are involved in manufacturing. We have manufacturing businesses that utilize the program to improve their facility. Things like the shell itself becoming more energy efficient, more weather tight, in the sense of insulation, windows, doors, kind of the common items. But also improving your facility from the sense of the systems within the facility, HVAC, lighting systems, or going to low efficiency lighting, for example. We recently had a guaranteed loan we approved to a manufacturer in Florida that was improving their HVAC system in their manufacturing plant, looking at saving quite a bit of funding. Somebody from cutting their heating and cooling costs. I mean, the heating costs in Florida, or cooling costs in Florida, right? Not a lot of heating. But some other examples on processing was we have an Indian tribe we work with in northern Wisconsin that is involved in lumber processing. They have a mill, a milling facility that they used our Rural Energy from America program to build a biofuel boiler, basically using wood waste for a boiler for their kiln and reduce their natural gas consumption. So those are just some examples as far as manufacturers that utilize the program. Projects that also change out equipment and other manufacturing components would also apply. It might be the energy savings might be a secondary benefit of a project. You have some manufacturers that changed out motors and controls and drives, simply for improving their processing, their throughput. But the end result is also energy savings. So those types of projects would also qualify within our program. On the renewable energy side of things, again, just kind of two caveats to it. Some of our clients are interested in renewable energy for their own needs. So it might be something like a solar photovoltaic system that provides some of the electric needs that they have, maybe a small wind turbine for their electric needs. Could be those that need heat, maybe a photo or a solar heating system or other process. Some utilize, like you noted, the Indian tribe biomass for a fuel source, a heat source, or power source. So there's a variety of sources of renewable energy that a manufacturer, that a business could use for their own source. Other clients are interested in basically a business that is a renewable energy business. So it could be a large solar system, a facility that's basically a generator and selling power to the grid. It could be a business that maybe has extra space, less like a warehouse or a large rooftop that builds a system for their own use but has excess to sell to the grid. Those are all things that we can do within our program. This year, our Guaranteed Loan program is growing. Last year, we expanded the program about 3 times, any historic use in the program. And this year, we're forecasting to, again, increase and exceed use in the program. Some other examples, kind of switching programs a little bit. We mentioned the Business and Industry program. That is also a Guaranteed Loan program that can be used to assist new businesses or existing businesses to expand and improve. Even though we're within USDA, it doesn't necessarily need to be a business related to agriculture. It could be any business in a rural community. So lots of things you do clearly would qualify for our Business and Industry program. Another advantage of a Business and Industry program is we generally would work with commercial lenders in our rural communities. So often it's a small bank, it's a rural bank. We have some larger banks within the program, but a vast majority of our clients work with a local lender so that they know, someone has known them for years within our programs. The last and rolling up, as mentioned earlier, the Biorefinery Assistance Program. There's a new name for the program. It's the Biorefinery Renewable Chemical and Biobased Product Manufacturing Assistance Program, which is why we refer to it as the 9003 program. But that program is again, we'll spend a little bit more time getting into details as we go forward here in the presentation. But that one really focuses on converting biomass to advanced biofuels, bio-based products, renewable chemicals. And is one of our most innovative programs as to the types of projects we can work with. Whereas most of our other programs are looking for proven technology, something that's already proven, that's commercialized. This program, 9003, is really set up to help our clients build the first commercial plant of new technologies. So I'll stop at that for now, and we'll come back to some of the details as we go forward.
The reason why we wanted to stop there is when we saw Greg Blake part of the agenda, there was what a great opportunity to talk about one of our more exciting programs, and not from a dry programmatic way, but really hear and learn how that program can really work with an exciting company that's trying to take some technology and create an incredible product, a sustainable product with that technology. So bringing in biosynthetic technologies is a much more interesting way, we think, to talk about the program than us listing off the long and horrible title that we have for the program. We can thank Congress for that. Don't tell them I said that, I need to be in a good places. To tell the story of biosynthetic technologies, we actually come back to the USDA before we go there, because biosynthetic technologies actually began here at the USDA with two researchers at our Peoria lab, Steve Cermak and Terry Isabel. Were two folks that were producing great science. They were figuring out how to take common vegetable oils and convert them in a way, in a chemical way, beyond my training, to have really incredible uses similar to petrochemical uses. And so what they did is in early 2000s they developed, and were working on, and finally developed a molecule called the estolide molecule. So the estolide molecule was a molecule that had all of the characteristics of a petrochemical molecule, but it was renewable and biodegradable. And this wasn't a complete pitch to our conference host, but the way, and one of the best ways to do that was from hot oleic soy. And so ARS is really good at creating good science. They're just here in these buildings. They have other labs as well. What they're not particularly good at, it's not their job, they're not trained to this, is take incredible technology that they develop and then commercialize it. Actually put it out in the public sphere so you can, that you and I can buy this incredible product at the store. And maybe we want to buy really amazing motor oil that's sustainable. So fortunately for ARS at the time, the same time they had created this, there were 7 ranchers sitting in Montana. I don't think that's an actual shot. But there were literally 7 ranchers in about 2004 that wanted to take some of the proceeds and the fruits of their labor as ranchers and develop them into a business and form a business together. And they thought they were going to go into the ethanol business. As the stars aligned and they learned somehow or some way about the research that had been done and the molecule that was created at the USDA, this estolide molecule, they said, ha, hold on a second. Well, let's go in a different direction. And so after some conversations and work and learning about this molecule, they received the exclusive license in 2007 of ARS's estolide molecule with the promise and goal of taking that molecule and then commercializing it, right? But it's a bit more complicated than that, and so with the benefit of having Greg Blake here from Biosynthetic Technology, I want to ask you to kind of share a little bit more of what actually happened to take it from that little molecule. 7 ranchers came together, and now we're going somewhere.
Yeah, and I forgot my hat. I apologize. My bed rolls back at the hotel. But, these ranchers, just like Sam said, they took this technology and then they kind of didn't know where to go next with it, because they're great ranchers, but like the ARS, that wasn't really their specialty, is commercializing a new, unique chemical. And so that's where we came in and brought in a management team, some chemists and salespeople, some business people who could kind of take this to the next level. And so what we set about doing was taking this, perfecting this estolide, this chemical structure,